Please put your hands together for VP of Engineering, Developer Experience at Shopify, Dion Almaer.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Has everyone had a good time at the show so far? You having it? Awesome. Thank you so much for coming again. I think it'd be a great way to kind of finish things off a little bit, especially on Partner Day, to have some of the awesome partners. Could we give it a hand for the partners that have joined us today? Yeah, we got Jan, Lital, and Björn up here. They've got experience across agency, building apps, YouTube influencer extraordinaire. We've got it all here on stage. We really want to open this up for you over time. So get thinking about any questions that you have for folks up here. We want to make it as interactive as possible and something for you, time for you to answer. We did shots just before, so we're ready to go. And we've got the Britney mic ready. If the music comes back on, we can start. So we're ready. We're really excited to get some time together. But to start off, I'd love for you all to take a couple minutes each to kind of introduce yourselves and also share, like, how did you get into the Shopify ecosystem? So Jan.
Yeah, would love to. So hey everyone, Jan here, codingwithjan.com. Maybe by show of hands, has anyone seen one of these videos before? Wow, you guys are amazing. So I do a lot of educational content on YouTube, and our main business, or the main thing we do, is a coding bootcamp where we help students first learn how to code, and then also how they can find their first clients as freelancers. Doing that for 1.5 years now. Prior to that, it was 2 years in an agency, the fastest growing agency in Germany, actually. For what it's worth, I don't know, but it sounds good. Prior to that, it was 1 year of freelancing. And interestingly enough, I actually graduated in mechanical engineering, which is like, I don't know, maybe besides having a good taste for beer, the most German thing one can do. That was kind of my path, freelancing, agency, and now it's the bootcamp. I'm super excited to be here. So I'll just pass it off.
Okay, so I'm Lital from Bo Ideas. I work with Bo Ideas almost 7 years. I'm the CTO. I manage 3 development team. And I with Shopify also for almost 7 years. We were looking for a platform, an easy platform to start e-commerce shops with, and we choose Shopify. I'm also the solution architect. I'm giving all kind of solutions for our clients based on Shopify. We also do integrations. We have a few shipping apps, almost 20, and that's it.
Hi, my name's Björn, Forsberg+two. Been building Shopify apps since 2012, so just done 10 years. Launched the first app as a side business 2012, and then 2 years later was able to quit my job and do it full time since then. I have 4 apps now. Originally found Shopify because we just had our first child, and I was going to open a organic baby clothes store.
Nice.
And found Shopify that way around, and then saw that they had a partner program, and we lived in a tiny apartment, so we didn't have space for actually storing any of these clothes or anything else. And saw that they were looking for apps. It was pretty early back then. And then there was a forum post saying what apps merchants were looking for. So I went down the list and thought, that one, I can do that. I was working for an investment bank doing product management and that type of thing. And then, outsourced the first app, and then learned to code after I had that first app, and then built more apps. And been doing that ever since.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. So, I've worked on various developer platforms over my career, and one of the unique things or different things about Shopify is how your customer is the merchant rather than just an end user using the platform. How did you go about kind of like you mentioned a little bit, just kind of like finding the list, finding merchants, understanding their needs, and like working out what apps you should build? Can you kind of talk through some of your learnings from doing that? Maybe Björn, you can start.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, the first one there was maybe 50 apps in the App Store when I first started, so it was a bit easier to find ideas that would make sense. And then the second app actually came out of Shopify launching a free app that did something similar to what my first app did. And then if you can't beat them, join them. So I built a templating app for that worked together with Shopify's free app and was able to generate the idea that way. And then I sort of got into the idea of helping merchants with the design of different parts of their, so not the storefront, but email design, invoice template designs and things like that. And I thought, well, I've done the invoice templating, I might as well do it on the emails as well. So it's been kind of a natural progression of finding these ideas and moving on things that I saw working for me on one app and trying to build further on that. But it's much harder now to know what to build and what's the right thing to build. And you don't know until you've built it and put it out there and try and market it and everything else. But it's worked out okay so far. Yeah.
Sounds good. Lital?
For me, I worked with almost 600 clients. So I just listen to the clients and hear what they're looking for. For example, we have a lot of shipping apps because they needed an integration and not to do it manually through their shipping carrier. And also about returns. They have a lot of requests to do a return and exchange. So we have a solution for them, and all the time we'll listen to them, what to add, which feature to work on, and this is we give them solutions for stuff that there isn't in Shopify.
Got it. How do you choose when to just do like a custom app for them to help one merchant versus actually productizing it as an app in the App Store?
If we have a few clients that ask the same thing on the custom app, the same feature, and usually everyone asks the same thing. It's amazing, but they ask the same thing with a little bit change. So after the third client, we just decide, okay, let's do an app for them.
Got it.
Yeah, I think this was great. So I would actually back that up. And I really think to come up with an app idea, it helps to be in the trenches for a while, just working with clients, see what they struggle with, or even in terms of legal compliance. Like every country has different legal requirements, and you're all from different countries. So yeah, maybe there's even potential for these kinds of apps. And yeah, just reoccurring questions, and then you can decide if it's worth to build like a larger app or a custom one.
Yeah, I think you can take that to features as well, right? It doesn't have to be a whole new app. It can be, I always say no the first time somebody asks for something. But if that same thing keeps coming back, then I know that's the feature we need to do, right?
Got it.
Instead of trying to work out what is the right thing to build, you let them tell you. But the first answer should always be no, at least to try and keep simple apps.
I have to say that I used to say no about everything. But today, when someone asks me for a complicated thing that Shopify doesn't give, so I'm telling them, okay, I will think about a solution, and I'm coming with 3 different ideas. We can do it this, or this. We just take in Shopify, I am hacking Shopify, and we can do stuff.
Got it. Awesome. I'm always curious about the pricing side of things. How do you decide on how to price your apps? How do you kind of think through that?
Pricing's hard, and experimentation, I think, is the right way. You have to price your app so that the customer sees value, right? So you can't just charge whatever and hope that they actually get something out of it, right? So you got to root it in some type of value base to begin with. But then knowing how high can I put it is experimentation. So I've sometimes increased prices and nothing changed except we made more money, which is a really nice thing. Sometimes you can go a bit too far and you start seeing it in reviews, or they say, oh, great app and really love it, and maybe it's a 5-star review, but they say, but it's a bit on the pricey side or something like that. And then you know, okay, I'm at the limit of where I can go here. But I recently actually changed the price of my Orderly Emails app, which is an email theme designer for all the Shopify notifications. And went from $49 as a one-time fee to a yearly $99. And I'd always use the one-time fee as like a real selling point, right? It's easy to say, right, this, I get value for it. But it was actually quite a hard thing to continue doing over time, because you get to a certain size, and then there is no more market for that app. You've got to keep finding new people to buy, right? So changing it to a yearly made sense, and then it means we can invest more time in updates. And also, I think some people see it as a positive thing because they know you're going to be around next year, right? So that app is still going to be available. So yeah, but it's hard.
Yeah. For us, about the apps, we always watching our competitors, what they suggest, and also we are thinking about the customer support that we need to give to this app, and and how many API calls, for example, we are doing, and how many investment that we do in the design. Like all the costs that it costs for us, this is how we price the app.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think pricing is super interesting. I guess in order to make my point, I would first have 2 questions for all of you guys. So maybe by show of hands, who here works in an agency or is a freelancer as opposed to just developing apps? Okay, interesting. And how about, are you preferring to work with enterprise clients, let's say doing $1 million per year or more, or is this like smaller clients doing less than $1 million? So yeah, maybe hands up for enterprise, and then for smaller clients. All right, still some. You're awesome. And yeah, I'm sure, like in the agency I was at, we also work with smaller clients, but with a lot of them. And especially when you install these apps, it's always a bit hard to justify the pricing. Because people think, okay, Shopify comes at a subscription, then there's costs I have here. Why does this app has to cost an extra $10, $20 a month? And that's also why I'm super excited about the new checkout extensions, because I think it's way easier to justify the pricing if you have a return on investment-based argument. So you can say, okay, install this app, it's going to make you an extra 2-3K in upsells maybe. And yeah, I had a bit of this conversation with Björn yesterday, because,
Yeah, we were talking about, apps sort of fall into different categories. They're either a vitamin, they make you more money, or they're a painkiller. So they'll help you solve some problem that you've got. And I think pricing the painkillers is easier. The vitamins, because you can much more easily show the value that they provide, right?
Yeah.
And I think, that's always easier to sell to somebody. But I always end up building painkillers. So you got to, like you said, we got to go look at what the competitors are doing. But yeah, I think it's quite interesting to look at if it's a painkiller or a vitamin.
Yes.
For us, we just focus on getting an app that is valuable. Like you have to have it. For example, in shipping apps, or we have a map it app that will control the shipping zones that you have, and you just have to have it in order to sell.
Yeah, that's right. That's one way to justify it.
That's awesome.
I guess the golden price that you really want for your app is some type of transaction-based, right? So if you can say for every transaction we can take a certain % or something like that, but it's very, very rare to find an opportunity like that, I think.
Yeah, because why people will want to give Shopify take 0.6%. Why I want to give more to someone else?
Yeah, but if you can show that you made this sale because of this app, right? So if you only take of the sales that you're generating, I think that you can justify that.
You can.
I think so.
So you mentioned checkout UI extensions. We released a bunch of features in the summer edition, and we talked about a lot of it here in the last couple of days. Are there any features that you're particularly excited about, or those that you think you're going to jump on and use within your own apps?
Yeah, maybe.
About checkout. We have a solution for gift tickets, gift cards, but not Shopify gift cards, because in Israel, where we're located, there is a lot of gift cards that a lot of clubs get. So they want to use it also online. So we have a solution that we did a custom app, and now with this checkout feature, we can use it. And we don't need the app, but it's great.
I was really excited about the app bridge updates, and because when we the full screen and the navigation, I've been wanting that for a very long time. I actually implemented it in 2 of my apps the day after it was released.
Wow.
And put it out, because a couple of the apps are sort of a design experience, and much like the Shopify theme editor, you need that full real estate for it. And we're building another app at the moment, which will be perfect for full screen as well. So, it was a big impact on us. It's maybe not the most glamorous, release or whatever, but it's the space that we're allowed to play within when we build our apps, right? And that moved the boundaries for what we're able to do, and to give a better user experience to our customers, which is what I really enjoy doing. And then the app design guidelines, I found those just interesting from a design perspective, and looking at Shopify obviously have very talented people. If they're coming in and providing this resource, I can learn something. It's nice that it's sort of it's a resource and not a requirement, right?
Right.
I can understand at some point you want apps to have a certain quality and usability on them. But I find resources like that really interesting. I love the Polaris guides as well, the sections on like content and wording and all that type of thing, because you can really change the usability of your app just by changing a few small words to make it more understandable.
I have to say that if I'm looking from the merchant point of view, so all of the merchant features that you gave in the latest edition, it's amazing that we have now, like Amos spoke earlier today about SodaStream. So we use Contentful, now we're using meta fields. It's amazing that we change all their strategy. It's less code. We have a lot of webmasters that's working on the platform, and they just can do more work than the developers. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so I'm also very excited about many of the new features, very interested in those from a technical point of view. But personally, I'm not really using them at this point, because as I mentioned earlier, for me right now, it's mostly education. And if you work with beginners, I mean, their first freelance gigs is rather going to be something like a store setup, a simple migration, maybe some customizations, building a section here and there. So yeah, checkout extensions only for Plus stores. It's rather on the enterprise side. Same with hydrogen and liquid, oxygen and hydrogen. But yeah, super interesting from a technical point of view. And since you're all here mostly on enterprise, I guess that's the perfect audience. Yeah, but just for me personally, not at this point.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yep.
But if you were Toby for the day and you could change absolutely anything in Shopify, what would you want to change?
Oh, that's interesting. I think I would do the theme developers a huge favor and change the billing model to subscription as well. So I think...
What are you doing?
Yeah, honestly, like the way it's set up now is that people pay one time for a theme, right? And from a business point of view, if you want to make any changes or anything, you have to make these, or you have to make a bet that your theme will sell in the future as well. So, and that's kind of a risk you have to take on, and it's a little more easier to calculate if you have a subscription-based model, similar to our bootcamp. Anyways.
Do you think we should do subscriptions for themes? Okay. Section over there. Very keen, very keen.
Yeah.
I do like how it aligns the incentives, just like on the app side.
Yeah.
But I have also heard from theme developers that are nervous about some of those side effects of it's nice getting that chunk of change up front, but given the option would be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
For me, to have more API capabilities, so I hope that the functions will do that. And also, it looks like all the themes on Shopify are pretty much the same. So, like, everything is pretty much the same feature. So maybe to have something that is not the same, like something that the client will not need to add his own custom theme because he wants different stuff. Maybe different stuff will work. I know that Shopify invests a lot of research and what is working, but for me as a consumer, it became pretty boring. Like, I know where everything is.
Got it. So you want more diversity in the theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's, again, like we talked about even in the keynote, like that's something that we really want, right? We don't want it to look the same everywhere. And getting that balance of like a nice UX so the customer kind of understands the flow and doesn't have to figure it out, but it feels very different. And that ties into the app guidelines that you were talking about before, where it's like, I don't want everything to look the same, prescriptive. Like we all went through the early mobile days of, I can tell that's a material app. They all look the same. There's the red header, and versus now where like things feel really good on the UX, but they look very different. Yeah. So that makes sense.
I have something to add. I also will want that the app robots will be more easy.
Okay.
Because they're driving us crazy.
Okay, got it. Sounds good. Get rid of the robots.
Yeah, if I was Toby for a day, first I'd transfer all my stock to Björn. And then...
Take a helicopter ride, maybe?
Yeah. And then I'd love to see a email notification API. So to implement that, it's one part of Shopify that we cannot automate. And a lot of people... And this is like the order confirmation, shipping confirmation. There's like 30 emails in there. And if you've designed those or coded them outside of Shopify, you've got to copy-paste 30 times. And if you change a color or something, you've got to copy paste 30 times. And it's funny because you can actually update the translation. So if you run a multi-language store, English, German, French, you can, via the translation API, update the French and the German version. But you cannot update the original one. And that would be really nice in my app, one of my apps at least, just to be able to click a button that says publish, and we just push it across, right? Yeah, I've been asking for that for a while.
Sounds good. We'll get it back to him. Okay, I've been hogging the questions a little bit here, so I'd love for you to be thinking about questions, but if you have any now, if you can put your hands up and we can get you a mic so you can chat directly to the panel. Anyone want to be brave and ask that first question? Here we go, in the front. Thank you, sir. Yes.
Now I need to come up with a question.
Yeah.
It's for Björn.
Okay.
You were talking about changing the pricing of the apps to test and see what works better.
Yeah.
Does this mean that current merchants who install your app also change the pricing or not? And if not, then it only reflects new ones, so maybe it's not a good test, right?
Yeah, so it's only on the new clients that I would change the price for. There's also no way to sort of update the price automatically for everyone else, which makes sense. They need to accept that. But yeah, so I always make sure my existing users keep it at the price that they signed up for. That was the deal that we made at that time. I think it's fair to honor that. And then, yeah, adjusting the price and seeing if it changes. The hard part is, there's a ebb and flow in the App Store and installs and things like that. So making sure that you've got enough time and you're not in the middle of summertime where it's like seasonally a bit slower and things like that. So you need to think about what season of the year you're in and what your installs would normally look like, and then trying to look at it that way.
Can I ask a follow-up question? If you, for example, raise the prices, do you ever get contact from merchants who said, hey, I installed it last year and it was a different price, or things like that?
Only if we go down in price, right? But then I make sure to contact anyone that's paying more than that. So I try and be like fair whenever I do price changes. If somebody signed up while I was running a test on something more expensive, I'll make sure that they are able to update it to the new price, the lower price again.
Got it, thank you.
Sounds good. We've got one in the back here.
Hello. Yeah. So first of all, if you don't mind, first thing I'd do if I would be Toby for a day, I would take on WordPress on brochure websites. I think that's a good niche to go on to.
Okay.
Questions to the three of you. What's your thoughts about the current state of Shopify dedicated developers at the minute? Meaning app developers and just developers in general. Because personally, I think we're lacking in that area.
How do you mean? Yeah, sorry.
It's hard to find.
Oh, hard to find developers.
Developer.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is. I think you need to how would I say, be willing to not keep the ones that don't work. But how do you find them? Yeah, I've found the developers that I've worked with through my personal network, and it's just been the right time, I guess you could say. But for me, it's important that they have. Whenever I've tried to work with someone that doesn't have any Shopify experience, I found it really difficult. So yeah.
Lital, how's it been for you? Yeah.
For me, first of all, I'm the first developer after the CEO in our company. So I recruited almost all the team in our company. We just teach them. We have a program of how to teach Shopify, and we just teach how to code in Shopify, and we just need the basic knowledge of CSS, HTML, JavaScript, and we teach everything, all the liquid, how to deal with the liquid and Ruby and all the languages that you need for Shopify.
What do you find? What are the developers that are new to Shopify? What's the hardest thing for them, and for you too, given all of the training that you're doing? Like, what's the hardest thing for them to get up to speed with Shopify?
I think in the beginning, and you will say soon, but I think in the beginning it's the fact that they know how to code, they know how to build a landing page, okay, for example, but the combination with Liquid and with the schema, they just lost. They don't know what to do. So they don't know for what to start, the schema, the Liquid, the HTML. So for me, it's easy to say, okay, first of all, build it as a single page. And then we will see how we put the Liquid and the schema.
Got it. Okay, yeah, for me, I think that's people are really looking for clear guidance and a roadmap when they get started. So for example, if we take the example of, or as I mentioned earlier, we work with a lot of beginners, right? So we teach them HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Shopify as a platform, how to do store setups, very basic things. And then there's like an announcement, okay, hydrogen, oxygen release. And beginners ask me, hey, should I still be using ThemeKit or hydrogen? Doesn't even make sense. But, but it's like they hear this announcement and think, okay, I have to go all in on hydrogen now. And then I'm explaining, okay, no, this is not for our enterprise brands. So yeah, I think clear guidance, a roadmap, intermediate, beginner level, expert stuff. So if we could categorize that in some way, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Got it, makes sense. Yeah, in general, one of the things that I'm excited about is just making sure that we're skewing to the basics and fundamentals as much as possible, right? So like if you know web, you're part of the way there, right? Instead of like teaching lots of proprietary types of information. But yeah, sounds good. Okie doke. Next question. And if you want to also, before you ask the question, say what you would do if you were Toby for the day, feel free, just like this gentleman. A little bit of an incentive. Got one over in the corner, I think.
How you doing, guys? If I was Toby for a day, geez, yeah, I'd resolve unlicensed themes issues. First of all, just want to say I disagree about the diversity of themes in Theme Store. There is massive diversity between them, but also they don't have API access, so there is limitations, so themes have to play within that. And obviously, as theme partners, they're building for what people are looking for, which is obviously the same as in terms of apps. There's no point building stuff for the sake of building it that's not going to sell. But my main question to you guys is, in terms of development, would you use themes from the theme store in terms of ensuring that your app plays well with any themes, where it's relevant, of course?
I can, answer on that. Definitely. And for the email design app, there's a feature where it will crawl the website to extract their logo and colors, button styling, social media links and things, so they don't need to fill it out themselves in the editor. And they're tested across most of the themes there, trying to make sure it works properly. We also like to partner up with the theme developers to get designs into our email app that match the themes that are there, right? So it makes sense to try and get as close a look as possible, because if you bought this theme, you want to buy emails that look the same, right? But yeah, I don't have any apps that use sections or add anything to the front end as such, so I don't need to look at that part. But it's more on the design side and collaborating.
Yeah. I also don't have any apps that influence the front end. And frankly, as an agency, we don't recommend apps like that, because usually the compatibility is for a few teams and not all of them.
Yeah, can't speak to that.
But I know it is a hard problem for app developers, at least, to find ways, because there's also two methods of adding things to a theme now, right? So you've got the old way, and then you've got the new sectioned way.
Yeah.
And your app needs to support both. So you can't just go with the nice, swanky new way, right? And I think that does limit what people are able to do, because you need to be able to support stores that aren't on the latest versions of themes.
Yeah, so maybe Shopify consider that the new apps will support only 2.0. It will be more easy to do just a section.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of work for us to do in just kind of like bringing these worlds together, instead of that they feel a little bit siloed at times.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot that we can do there.
It's a hard job, though, because changing a theme isn't, a 5-minute task sort of thing, right?
Exactly. When you've got this living ecosystem, it takes time.
Yeah.
And I mentioned WordPress before. I used to work at the WordPress ecosystem too, right? And it's a similar thing where things are injected all over the place over time, and so how do you kind of slowly evolve that ecosystem?
Yeah.
But it's something that we really need to do.
I also like the new badging that you get in the App Store, where saying what type of impact your app has on the page load speeds and things. I think that's really good, because it sort of sets a bar. It does affect ranking, so there's a a carrot to do it properly, which will sort of, solve a lot of those issues as well. Yeah.
Got it. Okie doke. We have a couple hands here.
If I was Toby for a day, I would improve how you preview templates that are assigned in preview themes in 2.0. But my question is for Björn. Did you get any kind of pushback from like customers? When you changed the pricing model, did you feel that maybe customers? Because I find in my day-to-day work, I spend a lot of time trying to justify, a €99 spend on an app,
Sure.
whereas that merchant will happily spend 25,000 kitting out their bricks and mortar shop without a thought. So
Yeah, and it has obviously impacted the number of sales that we do. So basically, it halved. So sell half as many, make as much money, which is, good from a support perspective. But it's harder than cross-sell other apps and things like that. But because I'm not changing the price for everybody that's bought it before, it doesn't really impact them. So the negative feedback is very limited there. It's more from partners like yourselves who are justifying it then to somebody else, and you've maybe been using one of our apps for years at this price, and then we come and make it a little bit more complicated. That's also a yearly recurring thing, right? Because before it was like, this is a one-time fee. We can actually roll it into our services. So I know some agencies have it as like a checkbox. Yes, you want these custom emails or whatever, right? And that does make it a little bit harder for them to set that check mark. But so far, so good. Yeah.
And very quickly, you have a great integration with Zappiet's Click and Collect. Do you have any other plans to integrate with so that we can send other types of notifications in using orderly emails?
I went down that road for a while. I had some MailChimp templates ready to go, and then MailChimp and Shopify weren't the best of friends. So I had sort of a code branch ready to go to spit out different types of templates, but it just felt I was getting away from the core of the product, and what I really wanted to solve was the Shopify email notifications. But I am working on another app which will also have some emails that need to be sent, and there it would make sense to do our own ones as well. But I think the Zappiet ones is including the correct code in our templates, right? And I've done the same for some other apps where it's maybe a bundles app. So we have certain code in the email to make sure that there's support for that. Or any product options app. So they all use line item properties, and so we can make sure that we have good support for these things. And we'll try and auto detect if it's an image so we can show a little thumbnail. And so we try and do it. But I prefer solutions that are more general than like specific to one particular app.
Thank you.
But if you have some suggestions of other apps that you would like to see it work better with, I'd love to hear it.
I do. I'll tell you later.
All right, perfect. Yeah, cheers.
Thank you. Yeah. I love how we're getting a feature list, by the way, out of this as well. It's very nice.
So I have a question. Did you ever had a merchant that actually questioned the scopes that were involved in the app?
For me? I feel like I'm talking
For
about
me?
it. But yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
So obviously, whenever you create the app, you request the scopes from the store. And I noticed a lot of merchants so far questioned the scopes that we used in the apps. And I was wondering if it's like a occurring thing, or is it just because we work only with enterprise clients, they have like more involvement into this?
In the scopes that I'm asking? Usually I'm asking only the scopes that I need, and sometimes on the process of approving my app, Shopify tell me you have to have another scope, so add them. And I don't really need them, but they enforce me to have them. So.
I can add a little bit. I've had a few cases of people saying, well, why do you need collections access? Or actually, to get collections, you need products, I believe, is the way it is. And that's just for one of the features in the app, and you explain to them exactly what it does and why it's there. Another one is for the order access, which is quite a sensitive access task for. Usually in invoicing apps, so some of our products are, That makes total sense. Of course, you need the order details, so that makes sense. But in the editing experience, we also want one order, just so we can show a nice preview to you, rendering your order and not some random one with a pair of shoes that we made up. And there I can understand they're like, hey, well, why do you need this? And it'd be nice to, now with the orders permission, we're only given 60 days history by default, which is excellent in that case, right? Whereas the other apps need the full history. Maybe it would be nice to be able to say, hey, I just need like the last 2 days or something. But yeah,
it'll be nice.
Very, very rarely do I get asked a question like that.
To be honest, I'm excited that the merchants are starting. I kind of want them to ask more as we get better with data governance and thinking about these things. So it's actually nice that.
But I guess the main thing is to only ask for permissions that you actually need.
Yeah.
Anything else should be a bit of a red flag to anyone, I think.
There is a few apps that ask too many things, but I think, like you ask, merchants need to ask why, because sometimes they have another goal to do. They have another goal that you don't know about. That maybe they plan a features, and this is why they're collecting the data. So for us as a company, we don't want your data. We want only the things that we need for the app.
Yeah, sounds good. Okie doke. Next question. We have one in the front.
Thanks. If I was Toby, I would also transfer his stock to myself.
Yep.
But I would also build in the wish list and back in stock functionality into Shopify by default. I think it's way overdue for an e-com platform. My question is more generally around if someone has worked with Shopify for a while, but they want to get into theme or app development, what would be the one piece of advice you would give them?
Oh, I've got to think about that for a second, I think.
One piece of advice, top piece of advice coming in.
Well, do it. I think
Yeah.
the first one.
Do it.
Yeah.
You can just try it out and do it. If you have a good idea, like for us, we weren't an app developers. We started as an agency, and then we saw that there is a lot of requests on some topic, and we just, frankly, our CEO just one night, he said, okay, I'm going to find a solution for that. He made a custom solution, and then, hey, why not to do it to everyone? So, and sometimes I have a juniors developer that they really want to do something. So they have a lot of ideas. So from these ideas, this is how we establish our return system. It was one of the client idea, and I said, and I talked with the developer that needed to do it for them, a custom made, and I said, why? It's really easy to do. So you are our client, let's do it for you. And this is how we started.
I'd also add maybe that even if you're maybe a smaller agency or you can't hire somebody to do it full time or something like that, then I didn't know how to code when I started. I knew how to design an app, or I knew what I wanted it to do, and then I found somebody who was able to build it for the absolute minimum that I could sort of spend or I'd saved up to do, and then iterate from there. I think it's maybe a little bit harder now than it was back when I started out.
Yeah, now it's harder.
Because the bar was a bit lower. The bar's quite high now, and there's a lot of apps in the App Store and things like that. But I think if you've got a good idea, or you can improve on an existing idea, I think trying to find a new idea always is not going to happen in most cases. But if you can find a space that you're interested in, and you think I can solve this better, or I can make it easier, or I can automate it, is the best thing, right? But not to be sort of feeling that you have to have this giant team or to make it sort of happen. I did everything myself for 8 years, and then when COVID came, then I actually started building a team. And my whole sort of company was, I wanted to build a small company, a profitable small company. So I tried really hard to keep it really small for a long time. So yeah.
Maybe the bar's a little higher, but you're raising the floor by training people and creating content, and obviously we're trying to do that with Shopify.dev and give base materials, and then with tooling, like what can we do to kind of raise the floor for folks and make it easier to actually.
There's a lot more tooling now than there was when I was starting.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, one last question. Who's going to get that last feature? It'll go top of the list. Is anyone going to get one last question? We've got one in the front.
Hi, thank you for the talk so far. It was great. I'm wondering, for the three of you, where do you see yourself in 2 or 3 years, just so that we can catch a bit of your vision? Björn, you mentioned that you have other apps being developed at this time. Lital, you're CTO, so I'm guessing maybe some recruiting. And Dion, you're in the education, so maybe more students, I'm guessing, but if you have more precise answer. Thank you.
Good question. Do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the YouTube channel, I actually want to try to expand this a bit into broader categories, because right now it's only Shopify, only development, and I think we could potentially hit a larger audience with also general web development topics, then maybe get them interested in Shopify in the first place. That would be a good funnel. And then, yeah, in terms of, I could still see myself in education in a couple of years, because that's super rewarding for myself, just, yeah, enabling people to do things they thought they couldn't do before. Yeah, gives me like a dopamine rush. I'm kind of addicted to that. So yeah, how about you?
For me, to extend the business, maybe to have a unique app development team in our company. That right now we are dividing the work between the current teams, and I don't know, just to succeed.
Yeah, I'd say similar answer. Hopefully doing the same thing as I am now, but still keeping a small team. We have one developer, a team who handle the customer support, who are an outsourced team actually. So I don't need to manage people, but they are excellent. Yeah, and rolling out more apps. I've been working on what I call AppKit for a long time, which is my own little framework for building Shopify apps. Making it easy for myself to have all the components that we have available. So that should speed up building more apps. And then at some point selling the business, I guess. But then the question is, what do I do then? You know, I'll go build another Shopify app. So yeah, it's a hard question. I'd say maybe 5 years I'd be looking to sell the company or something. But in 2 years, probably building more. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Can we applause the panel? So before we go, one small thing. You're going to get an email at the end of the day, asking, giving you a survey to get feedback. I know we get these survey emails all the time, and it's easy to not reply. But this is our first time coming back in real life. And one of the main things is obviously to connect with you, but it's also to learn, to find out how we can make this better in the future. And the more you tell us that you really appreciate us coming out here, the more ammo it gives us to be able to go back and do more of these as well. And then for just a little sweetener at the end, if you get through and fill out that survey, you'll be able to donate some money to charity as well. So just a little thank you for taking the time. But thanks again for the partners, all of the partners that have spoken over the show, the whole Shopify team that put together this event with a lot of love. Thank you so much, everyone.